Welcome, Kari. So, folks, I'm very happy to welcome Kari from Access Insurance, right? And they are a well-respected customer of ours from British Columbia, Canada, right? Welcome, Kari, and thank you very much again for sharing your experiences with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So, Kari, to begin with, it would be great if you can tell us a little bit about Access Insurance, right? The company, the background, how it started. What do you do, right? It'll be great to know. Yeah.
Okay. So the organization, I can tell you about Access first. So Access formed in 2010 as a result of amalgamation of several mid-sized British Columbia, Canada-based insurance brokerages, some of whom have roots tracing back to 1928. We now have about 200 employees across Canada, serving clients with risk management and insurance services. Our unique proposition is a focus on core practice industries and foundational expertise in those areas. For me, I'm the Vice President, my name is Kari Montes, and I'm the Vice President of Systems Administration for Access Insurance. And my team and I work with all departments in our organization to source, investigate, and implement technology and administrative processes needed to solve business problems. I've been with Access since 2014 this time around, and before that I was with our predecessor company Shaw Savy and Associates from 1998 through to 2010.
Thanks, Kari. And Kari, can you tell us also, right, a little bit about Access Insurance? I know I see that Access Insurance has been acquiring companies and has been growing probably both organically and inorganically, right? So what is the secret sauce, right? What really makes Access Insurance stick in this probably competitive marketplace?
I think we have, by using a dual track method to grow, we've had a lot of success. So we, have organic growth and the practice group model of Access to really focus on key industries where we anticipate there is growth potential, and OKRs is a big part of that. And then our acquisition growth is quite aggressive. So we've closed on 2 acquisitions already since late December until now. It's just late February, so in the last 2 months. And we anticipate closing on probably between 4 to 6 each calendar year. So that will continue to see us grow over the next few years at a really quick pace.
Wow, that's amazing, right? 2 companies have been acquired since December, and we're just in February, right?
Yes.
So, so how big is Access Insurance in terms of the number of people today?
Right now, we're right around 200 employees.
Okay.
I anticipate within the next couple of months, we'll double that, at least.
Okay, so within a couple of months, how much would you grow?
I think we'll probably be close to 300 by next month, and then if we get a couple more acquisitions on the books, I'd say we double by the end of the year for sure.
Oh.
We should be at 400 or 500.
Got it. So you'll be doubling. Okay, that's amazing growth, and we're really very happy for you, right? So far, based on our experience, I know you are an incredible set of people there. So we really appreciate that, right? And I really wish you the best. So now, I know we'll come to it in a moment, but also wanted to understand, right? Making acquisitions work is probably a very difficult thing for a lot of people, right? You have the hard factors, right? A different infrastructure, different processes, different set of software people are using, but also the cultural aspects, right? The soft aspects, right? So how do you really make that work, your acquisitions work?
So we have kind of a pipeline it's like a pipeline of phases for our acquisitions as they move through kind of the due diligence process before we close, creating a strong integration plan for after close, and then following through on that integration plan. There's some things that can be done right away. We can get them onto our phone systems. We can adjust the reporting structure and take some work away from staff that might be feeling overwhelmed in acquired agency. Oftentimes, if it's a smaller acquired agency, we might have a lot of extra resources, we can give them right off the bat. But there are other things that take time that we need to, wait 4 to 6 months before we're able to do that. So in insurance, we use something called a BMS, broker management system, that we use to pretty much manage all of our client files and accounting around insurance policies. And we use a system, a particular system that's really common across the industry, but we have to have a project to migrate all the data from the old system to the new system. So it's a really big project. We don't have a lot of control around the dates. We get assigned a team by the software company, and it usually, the go live date is usually about 4 to 6 months after close on an acquisition. So we do have to manage them on a different, primary software system until that time has passed, until we're able to get them onto our main BMS. Other software though, we can start moving them sooner. So sales CRM, profit, our phone systems, our Microsoft, we can get them over more quickly and get them kind of integrated more quickly. But it depends on the acquisition. So if we're acquiring, essentially we're built by practice groups. So we have like a professional and financial services practice group. We have a agriculture practice group. And so if we buy an agency that's a single practice group, they're able to just come in as like a preset department already. So one of our acquisitions that from the end of December was, one of the acquisitions from the end of December was a life and benefits firm. We didn't have life and benefits before, so we essentially bought a life and benefits practice group that we're able to just integrate right away. And then last year, one of our acquisitions was an aviation insurance agency. They only did aviation insurance. So same thing, we were able to take them and they just became a fully fledged practice group or department right off the bat because they were a single industry practice group focus. But that doesn't always happen. So the larger agencies where they might have crossover, where they have their own professional and financial services group already, they have their own aviation group already, that's going to take a bit more project management and more people involved to integrate them.
Great, awesome. And you make a very complex process look very simple, right? But I guess that's that's your secret sauce. That's really amazing. Because I do hear from people that acquisitions are very hard.
Yes.
To really make it work. But I think this is where probably a very strong positive culture, right? And Access Insurance plays a very positive, is a very, very good role.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's come to OKRs, right? So can you throw the light on a little bit on the history or background of OKRs, right? So how did it come out, right? Who thought of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how did that whole idea evolve?
So we started using, we first introduced OKRs at the executive level in 2019. We managed it with a Word document. So we essentially had kind of a master Word document with the primary organization objectives, and then we built out objectives for each department that aligned with those, and then each of us built out our own key results for our objectives. We set them for the entire year at once. So our 2019-2020 fiscal year, ahead of time, we had the whole year's OKR developed before the year started. That same year, we expanded kind of the OKR methodology to our performance development planning. So even though it wasn't necessarily connected to the department objectives, we did align them with the overall. We made sure that as each individual was setting their individual professional development goals, they aligned to the corporate objectives, whether it was culture, growth, profitability, something like that. But we found that was really difficult to manage. It was really difficult to know at the beginning of the year what we were going to do for the whole year and stick to it. So over time, it changed a little bit. The Word document was overwhelming, so we started with profit in, I think it was 2022, I think, that we just got a profit account, a growth account that we pretty much taught ourselves. used it to manage our OKRs, but we were still doing it where, we were setting most of them at the beginning of the year for them.
Got it. So OKRs, I understand that, we'll come to the technology part pretty soon, right? But, if you think about it, why OKRs, right? Why do you think, the executive team believed that, you needed OKRs? So, what were the problems you were trying to solve?
We wanted a more cohesive approach to business planning, to follow through on our objectives. We wanted better accountability, something that would better position us for growth. One of our mission is to be best in class in every part of the industry. And, the executive, we felt very strongly that OKRs was how to get there.
Got it, right? So, you had your mission and you felt that for executing your mission or executing your strategy, OKRs is going to be a great fit. It's going to improve accountability, right? So maybe these are the important things that you mentioned. That's amazing. Now, when you rolled out Profit.co, right? When you rolled out Profit.co, when you wanted to move from Word to Profit.co, right? What were the big challenges, continuing to try to use a Word for OKRs, and why did you think of a tool like Profit.co?
So the biggest challenges in the Word documents is we ended up with, for our 6 different departments, 6 different Word documents. And if there were interdependencies or cross-departmental teams, it was really difficult to reflect those in a Word document or even an Excel document. We just, and things would get missed. You'd find out that your department was part of another department's project when it started, got the invitation. It was, that communication piece was really difficult to manage. So we went out and started my department, the systems department. We started researching various OKR software to see if we could find something to help improve our communication, to help improve, following up on OKRs, being able to track what was being accomplished and what wasn't and why, and have some sort of report ability around it, which you don't get with 6 different Word documents sitting out there.
Right. I think you put it beautifully. I think there's different versions, and each department, having their own document, right? I mean, these are very, very important problems, which I'm sure a tool like Profit.co would have solved. And so, what was your experience in terms of onboarding Profit.co, right? Bringing users to Profit.co, right? How was the experience in terms of the users feeling comfortable about it, right? The leaders feeling comfortable about it, the IT team, right? How did they feel about it? How was the overall experience?
So our systems team, I think we probably adapted to it the easiest. We're not an IT team. We use external IT. So in insurance, we're not an IT company, but my department's responsible for supporting the technology that we choose. So training, workflow development, the support for ongoing usage of the software, and, the implementation project for a new software. So we treated implementing Profit like we do any of our other software implementations. We started with a small group, a pilot group, to try it out, to see what we liked about it, what we didn't like about it. We developed workflows, and then we trained and onboarded, one group at a time. So we started with my department. We started using the OKR function and the workspaces. We were using meetings to begin with, but we found for how we like to be able to access our meeting notes, workspaces was better for my department. We used to be able to kind of keep track of ongoing sections and discussions about the same topics every week. We found workspaces was better. So that's how we started with one department. We recorded our own training. We held some live training for different groups, and we did it just on one topic. So to begin with, we talked about just how to create an objective, how to add key results into the system, and how to do tracking. So just with that. Then we talked about the different types of I don't remember exactly what the order was, but we talked about the different ways the different metrics that are available to track an OKR and what each of them means. So what the difference between task-based versus milestone-based versus, just using the percentage toggle versus actually setting a KPI. So we talked about the difference and why you might choose one over another. And then we did, a session on workspaces and how those work. And then we adapted our meeting cadence to workspaces. We did some training on that. At the end of, the first year, we found that some departments had really strong adoption. So the systems department, the HR department, we had really strong adoption in various areas, especially in OKR. But other departments, they weren't using it at all. It would be kind of a scramble at the end of the quarter to update profit just so that they could, do a little PowerPoint of what they've done so far, but they weren't using it for meetings and they weren't using it kind of on an ongoing basis. They weren't checking in regularly. So, there was that kind of inconsistent adoption throughout the company. So some departments are using it really well and others really not at all. And when that's the case, you don't get a good, clear overall picture because it might look like one department's not doing anything, and that's not true. They're just not updating profit to what they've been doing. So that was the challenge we kind of faced after our first full year in profit, which would have been at the end of 2023. That was the challenge we were facing. That we found the right software, and we felt, we liked the OKR methodology, but we didn't have the full sophistication behind it. We were still trying to plan one whole year at a time, and we were getting spotty adoption of both the software and, setting and cascading out objectives and key results.
So these adoption challenges, how did you overcome them? How did you scale up beyond your department? Okay.
So one of the ways that we did that is we actually created a new role, promoted internally. We created what we call our project integrations, our director of project integrations, and that's Elizabeth, who I believe you know. And she is our OKR captain for the company, in addition to, some other non-OKR responsibilities to do with, non-OKR captain responsibilities. So she's the lead for acquisition integration, and then she's also kind of the lead for dealing with all the various sales teams and practice groups. So we created her role, and she spends about half her time being the OKR captain. So having that single person whose time is dedicated to, being a resource for OKRs and a resource for profit was really instrumental in increasing adoption.
Well, that's amazing. That's really an inspiring data point, right, for everyone. That having a dedicated OKR captain, right, who spends 50% of her time, right, on the OKR's program, right, and you felt that has really helped you with adoption, right? That's something which we have found to be absolutely true in several other customers, and I'm very happy to see that that was the thing, right, happened. And probably something which I should have asked a little ahead of time when we did the introduction, but can you tell about your specific role and your department's role? I didn't, we didn't go too much into it, but what do you do in Access specifically? What's your day job?
Okay.
Kari?
I did say it at the beginning, but I can definitely say it again.
Okay.
So I'm the VP of Systems and Administration, and my department's main purpose is to source, investigate, and implement technology and administrative processes needed to solve business problems. So we build, we source technology, we'll do kind of an initial implementation project, and then if we need to, we can create workflows, we can provide support, but we're not, we're not supporting the OKR process itself, just the technology associated with it. So by having Elizabeth, who is our director of project integrations and our OKR captain, now we have someone who's actually supporting the OKR process itself, in addition to the software. And then me individually, along with Elizabeth, are EA to the CEO, Brittany, and our VP of HR, Leslie. The four of us are on what we call our profit implementation team. So we make decisions regarding what sections of profit we might want to use. We make decisions around how we might want to use a particular area, how we might want to link dependencies. So we talk that over ourselves. And the reason it's the four of us is I am, the technological representative. Brittany's kind of representing our CEO and his vision because she's the VA. Elizabeth is our OKR captain, and then Leslie as HR because the PMS, the performance development side is really, she has ownership on that side. So as HR piece.
Great, awesome, and that probably leads a segue to the next topic, which is PMS. So are you also using Profit.co PMS?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. And before using Profit.co PMS, were you using again a Word, or were you doing it manually? How were you doing it, Kari?
Doing a Word document, and we do double-blind completion. So the staff were filling out the questionnaire, and then the managers were filling out the questionnaire, and then someone from HR was manually putting them together, the answers.
Okay.
And then shortly before the live meeting, the manager and the employee would get a consolidated copy of the questionnaire to use in the meeting. So it was a very manual process.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. So how many appraisals, performance appraisals have you done with Profit.co now?
So we did a full annual cycle. So we started doing it. They don't do them all at once because we used to do all of our PDPs. We call them PDP for performance development planning or professional development planning. Sorry. So we call them PDPs for professional development planning. And we used to do them all in April. But once we grew, over 100 people, that was too much for the HR department to handle. So they spread them throughout the year now, one department at a time. And it's pretty much a rolling cycle. So it's always happening and they're just doing one department at a time. Keep going.
Okay.
So we've done one full annual cycle. They started it in January 2023 using Profit. And we did do some upgrades to the system that we worked with Profit on to allow the double-blind completion. And yeah, it worked really well.
Sure. Awesome. That's a nifty idea, right? Spreading it throughout the year and doing it one department at a time. I guess that lends a nice pace, right, to how things are doing, and you're able to do enough justice to everyone instead of rushing it, right? I guess, right?
Well, it's really important to us too. We separate professional development planning from salary reviews. We still do those all at one time a year, but we don't want the money someone's earning to be, we want them not to be thinking about that when they're doing their professional development.
Absolutely.
What you want to move on, what you want to, grow in, what areas of knowledge you might want to develop. We want to separate that from how much money you want.
That's a very, very forward-thinking practice, right? Because it provides probably a safe space for people, right? To really talk about what bothers them, what they can do to improve, what they expect from the company and from others, right? To a bit openly, right? Because they don't feel that sort of salary decision over their head, right? So they're able to speak freely, right?
Yeah.
So that's very good. Okay, that's awesome. So overall, what has been your experience in terms of the support from Profit.co, right? Whether it's customer success or product, what has been your feedback, right, in terms of the people that you've been working with on Profit.co and overall the company as a whole?
It's been excellent. So we've used it in a few different ways. To begin with, we were a growth customer and we just, we used chat when we needed to, but we didn't have, a lot of direct communication. Then when we progressed with launching PDPs and Profit, then we deepened our relationship a bit because we worked with your IT team on introducing the double blind, and that was a really good process. And we went back and forth to make sure that it was right. And then even once launched, my department was the first one to go through it so that we could test it at the same time. When we needed some tweaks, Profit.co was very responsive. We were able to get it working the way we wanted it to work, which was excellent. And the feedback from our staff was, it was so much easier to complete than the Word document. It was user-friendly, it was intuitive. So we had a lot of really strong feedback from the staff that the new process was an improvement over our Word documents.
Okay.
So well with us. More recently, when we upgraded to Enterprise, so we get a bit more personal support, and then we also did the OKR coaching with Profit, and that has again been a really good experience. Elizabeth has been primarily working with Haresh on your team, and want to check. She gave me some kind of feedback on how that's been. She said that really Haresh and the entire team, it was a very positive experience working with all of them. They provided valuable insight and coaching to our team. We chose to have executive and OKR champions participate in the OKR coaching, and all managers as well to participate in the OKR. And it's been Elizabeth's worked really closely with Haresh, and it's been a positive experience.
Great, awesome. So now, if we really look at the value that the OKR program as well as PMS has delivered, right? Either qualitatively or quantitatively or both, right? What are the areas do you think the OKR program has positively impacted Access Insurance, right?
Like OKR program in general, or specifically the OKR coaching that we have?
Probably both, if you could cover both. Or whichever it's top of mind. Yeah.
Well, so when it came to launching, I think that the biggest part for us was when we first launched OKRs, we didn't have a full understanding of the methodology behind it. We weren't being nimble. I think that was the biggest piece, is that we were trying to plan the whole year at once. We were using OKRs. We had a really good, we were cascading well. We were definitely making sure that our OKRs had a purpose that aligned with our strategy, but we were trying to plan too much at once. So that was the big thing that came out of our coaching, was to be more nimble, to look at one quarter at a time, to respond to what was happening around us, to try not to do too many things at once. You don't need to accomplish these 10 objectives in quarter. Look at 3 or 4, make sure that they're, what Haresh and his team went through with us to make sure that they're actionable. I don't recall the exact terms that he went through, but he, talked about breaking out the KR, making sure that you are covering, key areas that you needed to. That was new for us. It really helped us narrow things down and take away some of that overwhelm, that not everything needs to be done, right away. Not everything needs to be okay to, have our key focus, and to really make that our key focus. We have to do it all at once.
Great. So I'm glad to hear that the coaching program really clarified, right, conceptually, right, what OKRs meant, right, and also really changed your outlook towards this. That we don't have to do all at once, and we don't have to boil the ocean, but let's be nimble, right, and look a quarter at a time, and that gives time to reflect and then respond, right, to the next quarter. Yeah. And just take fewer objectives, right, and so that the focus element is brought in, right. So those are very good things, right. It's a good value. Yeah. Now, the OKR, because of the OKR program, are you seeing any tangible benefits in terms of improved productivity, or greater achievement of goals, better alignment, right, saving time, right? Are there any tangible benefits that you're seeing so far?
So we're just nearing the end of the second month of kind of our new updated OKR program.
Okay.
I'm definitely seeing an improvement in press department communication. So at the executive level, with financial health, we developed meeting cadences that we're using where we have certain weeks where we do our planning, where we do our mid-month check-in point, and where we do kind of our month end, and we are making sure that we address the top two things our department, our top two key results for the quarter. It really helps us drill down into what's important and gives us insight into what. So we know why, if finance says they're working on a particular thing for a quarter and that is their top priority for the quarter, if I have something else I need finance to do and it's not that top priority, it gives me that insight so I can be more respectful of their time and more understanding of what they're working on. And so that's been a huge part for us. We haven't yet rolled out the OKR cadence at the department level, so that is starting. I think my department has just started that with managers. I haven't started it with the frontline yet. That will be in April. And that is kind of our corporate initiative is in Q2 to start rolling out an OKR meeting cadence at the department level, so not just at the executive level. And so then I think we'll see a lot more insight, employees understanding why we're working on something, and what the purpose behind, a particular goal is, which they didn't have before.
Got it. So now probably a couple of questions, final questions. One, so what next? What next, Kari? What are you? How do you see the OKR program and the PMS evolving at Access Insurance? Right? Well, what are your plans?
So as I said, what next? The biggest thing next is to start rolling this out to more than just the executive. So to improve the cascading down to other levels of the company. So managers, that's happening this quarter, and then frontline staff in the following quarters. So that's what's next. I think we need to really improve the sophistication of the OKR champions still at each department, not just for OKRs themselves, but continuing to work with them on using the software. And I think how we set up the software, we still have some work to do there, where we need to be careful not to make it too detailed, because then it becomes overwhelming to go in and update all the time. So we need to look a bit more high level. If there is a workspace attached to a particular key result, because those are all the things that we need to do. For example, in an acquisition, we have a lot of things we need to make sure we do. I think we want to keep the workspace there, we've decided, because it's a good checklist, a reminder to make sure everything gets done. But we don't want to make the key result task-based any longer. So the workspace is there as, information, but moving more towards milestones to push OKRs along instead is, I think, more manageable and more respectful of the time that it takes OKR champions to go in and make sure they're updating things all the time. So I think those are the two key areas to summarize, is that we want to improve the sophistication of our OKR champions in both the OKR methodology and the software still. And Elizabeth, our OKR captain, will be the key driver for that. And then we want to simplify how we put the OKRs into profit a bit, just to help increase adoption and usability.
Got it. And if you were to advise, let's say somebody else, in the community who's going to start OKRs and our OKRs with Profit.co, what would be your advice? What should they do? Let's say if they're going to start from April, right? What should they do to make their OKR program successful? What would be your advice?
So, a new department manager, is that what you're?
No, I'm saying, let's say another company in the community, right? A new company, another company, another organization, right? They're going to start OKRs. Right? As somebody who has been doing this for the last couple of years, what would be your advice to them? Yeah.
So my advice would be to do the coaching sooner. So I think that we'd already tried so many things and had, conflicting ideas out there before we did the coaching, that we could have saved a lot of our own time, would have had a clearer understanding of what we were trying to achieve if we'd done the coaching sooner. So I think having the coaching as at the start of your OKR journey, that's what I recommend.
Okay, that's a very solid advice. I really appreciate it. Now, any final word from you, Kari? Open, from your side
No, I
before
don't
we
think so.
close.
That's, you asked a lot of questions that I think allowed me to cover, everything about our experience and with both OKRs and the software. But yeah, I think we're definitely, before we chose Profit, I looked at a number of different OKR software, and we're definitely happy with our decision. We think we made the right decision. Profit gives us the workspaces, the task management, the meeting functionality, and the OKR functionality itself sets Profit apart from, what the other software we looked at. And I think with our growth track and our growth journey, Profit is the right partner to support our OKRs.
Great, that's awesome. And let me probably just summarize, what we have discussed in a couple of minutes, right? Probably we started the conversation, about Access Insurance, and how Access Insurance has been growing dramatically through acquisitions as well as organically, and that itself was a very interesting, discussion, and a lot of useful inputs that you shared. And then we moved on to how Access Insurance decided on OKRs and the way of OKRs for Access Insurance, right? And then we really spoke about the process of implementing OKRs with initially with Word, the challenges with that, and how you transition to Profit.co, and and a relatively smooth experience there, it looks like, and how you started using the meetings feature, tasks, workspace, and then also switching gears, how did you use OKRs for PMS, right? And it looks like some pretty solid experience there as well. And then we looked at some challenges, adoption challenges, right? How you overcome that, overcome that with the OKR captain role, dedicating some time and having a good team, right, between you, IT, HR, and the executive team. Right, we covered that, and then we ended with your plans for the future, right, as well as your advice for companies who are going to start the OKR program, and you gave some very good feedback on the coaching, right, how the coaching really helped, and your advice would be for people to start with coaching and then use an intuitive software, right, instead of relying on Word. Right?
Yeah.
Does that summarize our conversation?
Yes, definitely. Perfect.
Okay. Great, excellent. So, Kari, thank you very much again, on this beautiful Friday afternoon for spending your valuable time, right, educating the community and sharing your experiences on OKRs. And on behalf of everyone at Profit.co, I really wanted to express our gratitude and thanks for your amazing interview. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, and thank you as well.